Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, your number one podcast for all things Assassin's Creed. Today's episode, we're going to be looking at the mechanics of Valhalla. This will include the parkour, the combat, the world events, because I think that is one of the greatest mechanics to come out of a game, and I want more games to adapt to it. But we're not alone. Sorry. We can't do an episode about mechanics if I'm just talking to myself. It sounds daft, but I'm not very good in that department. So I have brought a friend of mine. We met in the Suttus server, which I seem to be getting a lot of friends now, which is nice. We have Nick.
Hello.
He's kind of the first person that has responded to that queue on time, so we'll give you a medal for that. Most people miss the queue.
Yeah. I am Mr. Q. You want some gadgets? You asked me. No, I can't give you gadgets. That's out of my expertise. But tips, yes, definitely. If you have any issues with your game, let me know. I'll troubleshoot it out.
To be honest, if anybody asks me for troubleshooting advice, they'll have to wait 20 minutes because I go into Google to find the advice. I'm not very tech savvy.
Oh, that's very accurate for any any advice. Google it out. Just works. Plain old works.
The one thing you can't Google, well, you can, I actually had to Google, is how some of the systems in Assassin's Creed Valhalla works. Tell a lie. I did have to Google the feign death ability because I'm going to put it out there. The feign death ability is one of the greatest mechanics in Assassin's Creed so far, just out of pure fun. It's not as if it's groundbreaking, amazing. It's just fun. It's boring part one because you don't do much, but part two allows you to surprise assassinate people. So
have you tried doing this in mid combat? I mean, after you fully upgraded. There are two levels of upgrade in Valhalla. So you have the feign death ability level 1 and level 2. So level 1 is just you laying dead on the floor. Level 2 makes sure you can assassinate. So if you get the level 2 part, there's a little bit fun stuff when you can do mid combat, and it's amazing.
I've not tried it mid combat. I've tried it where I've been spotted and two guards run at me, so I feign death, and then as one's walking away, I jump up, assassinate, and then chain assassinate the other dude, and then because Avar's always wearing her hood, she just flicks the hood and casually strolls away like nothing happened. It's the most glorious feeling just to stroll out of the camp after all the dead bodies are just hitting the floor.
Oh yeah, that is fair. What you can do here, and this is also a showcase by Leo K. He's an amazing YouTuber. He gives a very good detailed guides on how to do parkour. Basically, any game mechanic you have a question on, Leo K is your guy, and Google him. He's great. So as we were saying, in feign death ability, for example, what you can do is in mid combat, say you are somewhat down to one man, but you can do your, for example, if you don't have your guaranteed assassination option on, you have your quit time events, and you can make that on time. Just fake your death. Fake your death in mid combat. They'll be like, oh my god, is he actually dead? And they actually come and inspect you. During that time, you just go and stab him, and then yep, everything's fine in the world, and just walk away. It's a perfect feeling.
I think the only issue with feign death is another mechanic that I'm actually annoyed at is the AI mechanics. The AI was bigged up in all the reveals, and give it its due, there's been a lot of times where the AI is just throwing dirt in my face, it's just ambushed me. That's fantastic. But when you feign death behind a church and an archer is on the other side and still sees you feigning death and still shooting at you, it makes no sense. There's been times I've done a raid, gone behind a tree into a bush, a guy's walked in, he can't see me, I stab him, and next thing I'm still being hailed at arrows by Tom down the hill. It just makes no sense. Why is the AI good enough to ambush me without me knowing, good enough to throw sand in my face, but dumb enough to shoot me through a wall with 20/20 vision that'll give Hawkeye a run for his money?
Okay, so there are many things that actually happen here. this was there since the start of the engine itself. This was Anvil Next 2.0, if I'm not wrong. Is it Anvil Next 2.0?
I think it is, but it's got that weird Animus logo.
Yeah, so
Makes...
yeah, it is Anvil Next. It is Anvil Next. So Anvil Next has been introduced since Assassin's Creed Unity, and this issue has been there since Assassin's Creed Unity, where gods tend to have this same buffer of detecting you. So basically, every god has this like sort of like a similar detection range. So if you have one detection range over one god, that is shared between another guard, and it's sort of like having this a shared perception of a sense, which you can see like the moment you're detected, all the gods are on you, regardless where your location is, and that's what happens with Unity. It's a common mechanic. To be fair, it's there in other games as well. If the perception level is not set right, this is what happens. Every god will jump on you, and there are many other factors at play as well. For example, combat management system. You have uh, the other NPCs, that is your innocent NPC systems running on the background. You have your active items. These are all part of the gameplay programming, but they all factor into this AI system itself. So there we go.
It gets monotonous because Assassin's Creed Valhalla has a great stealth system.
Yeah.
I have found myself loving stealth. There's been times where I've been able to like break
Mm-hmm.
a church window, sneak in, stab a couple of dudes. Ava holds her breath so time slows, which seems a bit realistic. So it's like a perception sort of thing, and you can sneak in. But as soon as
I'm not sure if I've done this. If you hold your trigger for long enough, and you're holding your breath right, your ear starts to ring. I'm not sure if many people have noticed that. It is supposed to do with the haptic feedback as well for those who are playing in PS5. That your right trigger is where you hold the bow, and that starts to quiver because you're pulling your bow for so long, your arm starts to vibrate a bit. That's supposed to give that feeling, and you can hear that into your ears. But somehow, in the recent patches, that has not been working properly. So I hope Ubisoft will fix that. But yeah, so if you pull back, you can hear a slight ringing noise. If you pull it for quite some time, just give it a second or two, then you can hear that sound.
I might have to try that. The ability I use is, I don't know what it's called, but it basically slows down time, but Ava still maintains the speed, and you can run up, and the guards still get alerted, but you can assassinate
Right.
them.
Right, the arrow of Nornir, if I'm not wrong. You sort of shoot multiple arrows in quick succession,
It,
sort of thing, and it slows down time, but you can shoot faster.
it's a melee ability. I've got the horn manure, but I don't really use range unless it's for a wolf summon. I can't remember the ability. I'm not on the PS4 at the moment, so I can't bring it up. But once I find it out, I'll share it on Twitter so you know which ability I'm on about. But it's
Right.
it's really useful because it sounds like when you use it, you can actually hear Ava taking a breath, and then time slows a little bit. Guards still notice you at real time, but their reaction is delayed. So it's like it's her perception of holding a breath, running into combat. Guards still notice her, but time slows down, so your reactions are a bit quicker.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I'm not sure. I'm also not familiar with this skill because I didn't use that as much. My favorite was Dive of Valkyries because it has a large AoE. The axe throwing ability, obviously, the impalement ability, and the Hand of Tyr. So the impalement is like you throw a harpoon and you can then whack them across the whole map if you want. It felt really good. It's very useful against zealots because if zealots are about to do the red attack on you, you use your ability, goes through them, it cancels their ability, and you can throw them off, which is pretty fun. Another one is the Hand of Tyr. So basically, you run towards the enemy, catch them, and you carry them with you till the end of the world or until your stamina runs out, which is pretty great.
On about the Viking harpoon, I think that's one you're on about. There is a bit of an annoyance with that system. The abilities all seem very grounded,
Mm-hmm.
as we've, which is why, as you said, until your stamina runs out, like gives it the realistic vibe. The slow down time, hero take a breath.
Yeah, where's the harpoon you're talking about, right?
But this is what I'm getting at. With the harpoon, the issue I have with the harpoon is it's a really good ability, you know, the way you can pull enemies and she switches to the axe and chops off the head. But when you climb a tree, and this is where I get annoyed, you can't use the Viking harpoon. This is a system that would remind you of the Hangman achievement from Assassin's Creed 3. Rope dart, jump off a tree.
Darts. Yes. This is something that everybody's somewhat pissed off at Assassin's Creed Valhalla a bit. Sort of like a flaw, you can say. It's not pissed off entirely on it. It's like there are many mechanics that Valhalla could have, like, you know, expanded on, and they just didn't. They're like, yeah, just let it be there. Let's not expand it on even more further. We see that with social stealth as well. Like, it's just there. It's just not polished enough.
I think we can talk about social stealth because that's the next one I want to actually go into. So you read my mind here, mate. Social stealth, I think the problem with social stealth isn't the social stealth itself. I think this is another issue with the AI perception.
Yeah.
The AI's perception in this game is so high. There's an achievement on PS4 where you need to ride or go past a guard in social stealth. It's called "This Is Not the Viking You're Looking For." Nice little Star Wars reference, cheeky. But it's so goddamn difficult because you ride through a distrust area on your horse, and immediately all guards are on you and want to attack you. I really think
it's the same perception. Yeah, the thing is, this is the same perception issue that persists with the engine itself. As I mentioned before, it's been there since Unity. Syndicate had this issue, but they dumbed down the AI so much that you don't notice it. In Origins, the guards weren't as receptive. To be fair, like they were more like you call them, they will come to you. That's pretty standard. But Odyssey was also similar. Like the amount of engaging NPCs. Remember, in Origins, the AI system had an overhaul. They called it, I'm not sure what it's called. So they had an overhaul with the whole AI system where everybody is in sort of like a database. And in that fight sequence or in a particular timing, only 8 NPCs can attack you. And this is the same case with Valhalla. Only 8 NPCs attack you. But the problem is, there is some sort of a buffer that is shared amongst all of them. So if there are only 8 gods around the vicinity, all 8 gods are on you at that same time. And that's the case with Valhalla. If you see how the enemies are distributed all across, there are like pockets of 2, 4, 2, which is obviously 8. So in that particular square, you have all 8 gods that are ready and are waiting on command to come down on you. So that is something that Ubisoft needs to address carefully in terms of how to manage their AI, tweak it a bit, and see what they can do to improve it as we move further on. Because I got detected a lot in Jorvik, and like I was supposed to do this quest where I'm just supposed to like walk across the town hall, and I was in social stealth, but a god was so close to me that he detected me in social stealth. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel right at all.
I think the best way, I'm not very good at coding, so my idea could be completely flawed in the ideas of coding and game development. But I think the great idea is for the perception would to be have a sort of system where the guards read how close Eivor is. So in social stealth,
that's already there. Problem is the way how the detection meter works. Like I'm not sure if you had this bug where I'm sorry if I keep interrupting you. I'm so sorry. I'm so excited to say about this, but there is this bug in Valhalla where you get constantly detected, like sort of like an off thing, like it keeps blinking on you. You get that off detection thing, right? Like the moment you're done detection, you get this white color figment all over the body, like sort of like a ping thing. It says that you're out of combat constantly. That only triggers if you're out of combat, and that happens every now and then. Apparently there was an issue where nearby birds are detecting you, and when nearby birds are detecting you, the gods are finding you easily as well, because they all share the same perception, and that caused the issue in the first place. it has been fixed in the subsequent patches, but I had to face that throughout the game, and I had to be on a high point throughout.
I have not found that, but I think the one thing I have noticed, and I play a lot of RPG games, and I play a lot of games where I know for AI, seeing you, and I have noticed that Assassin's Creed Valhalla guards the detection seems to have two phases: spotted you, attacking you. I really think there should be spotted you, investigation, then alert, because if you go for a distress area, from what I've noticed, I get spotted, then I get attacked. No guards spot me, then investigate, and then attack. Whereas if you're riding through a horse, you're going to get spotted, but they're not going to take notice because as you've rode past them on the horse, it's going to drop down because they've not investigated you because you're just riding too fast. So
That
if
is
you're
a very good observation. Not gonna lie, it's a good observation. But what you said there is actually already there in Valhalla. But your investigation system has that downtime that is so low that the guards just like, oh my god, the person's dead in right front of my eyes. So it's definitely you, Eivor, who's hiding in a bush. So that's what's happening there. They didn't do the investigation; it's just directly there. So
you just need
that's
to
just
buff it.
yeah, they just need to add a more longer investigation time period. That was there in Origins Odyssey as well. I think they didn't tweak this out properly, which is why you're seeing this.
And I think for social stealth, and it should be possible, but
Hmm.
when you do social stealth, you get caught in a white outline, which I've noticed. It cannot be impossible from a developer standpoint to make the AI believe that in that social stealth you're undetectable. So it kind of, if you're in that social stealth programmed area, the the idea for being spotted is turned off. Sounds daft, but as soon as you break out of that zone where it's a social stealth, the detection meter is then turned on, so it goes through the phase of spotted, investigation, attack. But if you're
Yeah,
in social stealth, it's turned off. So no matter if your crowd walks shoulder to shoulder, they're never going to detect you because it's turned off. If a guard stands by a table that's classed as a social stealth, it's turned off, so you're not going to get investigated. And I think that
yeah,
would
it does
improve social stealth.
a lot. But this system has been there since Assassin's Creed One, so yes, it takes back a lot. If you see how what actually social stealth is, this is explained well by Leo K. In one of his friends when he was doing Genshin Impact, and one of the fans have asked him, is that how social stealth work is like it's like the bush mechanic in Origins, but except that bush is movable. You are able to move that bush around with you. So that's the whole concept of social stealth here. You have a bush that is moving with you and you're moving it around so guards don't see you because you're still holding them. Like in Assassin's Creed 1, you need to hold the button. So you hold the button to get into that crouch mode and you follow the crowd or be in that bush and going across. It's like going on Metal Gear Solid where you have the box on your head and you keep walking across the enemy lines. So that is how this mechanic works. In Valhalla, it is you see how that also affects with the bush system that they have in place is that they are somewhat similar. So if the gods actually come closer to you in the bush, they can detect you. So that's the same thing that's happening with the gods that are coming across you face to face in a restricted zone. They come, they meet you, and like, oh my god, it's you, Eivor. So yeah, you're detected.
Uh,
Unfortunately, but yeah, it's something that they need to polish it out. Either they need to find a way to make sure the gods don't come across you when you're in social stealth or around the social stealth group, or just not be there on that general area. Make them turn away if they see a social group or something.
I think I may have encountered a weird bug there because there's four camps, so it's not very popular, but I've noticed it four camps where I've been in a bush that I would say is probably 10 Avor steps across. Sounds daft that
Yeah.
I've counted it, but I did test it. Where
Mm-hmm.
a guard's walked in on a patrol with two guards, and he's walked in the bush. I've assassinated him. The
Yeah.
guard spotted me to attack,
Mm-hmm.
but as the bush assassination works, I've gone back into stealth. So the guard stops seeing me, walks into the bush, I stab him. A third guard sees him getting stabbed, runs at the bush. I pop down, it shuts off the detection. It's like, where's Avar gone? I jump back out the bush and stab him.
Right. It's the
It's
same mechanic.
weird.
It's the
It's
same.
weird.
This
It
is the
doesn't
same
make
thing.
sense.
This is the same thing that you're going to use in social stealth. This is the whole principle behind it. It's a movable bush. So that's all you have.
But,
That's the
why
thing.
is it so easy to be detected in social stealth, but in a bush I can assassinate 3 dudes and no one cares?
The thing is, with social stealth, the thing is, if you see how the NPCs react, this is also where it changes. The moment you're detected, your social stealth group disperses. They disperse and they run away. So whatever cover you had as a social stealth group just ran away. In Assassin's Creed 2, the group does not run away because one of the movable groups that you can have a control on are the courtesans, the courtesan group, in which they cover as a shroud on you. If gods are coming too close to you, they sort of lure them away from your range while not splitting up the group. Only if you like, there are like only 4 courtesans, so only 2 of them go to one guard, and the other 2 will still remain and try to maintain that bush cover. It's a pretty interesting mechanic, to be fair.
It is, and I think the last point of this mechanic, because I want to touch on one of the most talked about mechanics after this, is in this game and time zone, a lot of the social stuff is priests. Now, in this time zone where priests seem to be heavily looked after and heavily respected, isn't it a bit backwards then if you're hiding in the middle of priests and a guard just touches a priest's shoulder that's happened to be once, the guard suddenly starts attacking you, making all the priests fled? Because in my eyes, if this is a history where priests are so well respected in the name of God, you're not gonna take 2 glances at them. You're gonna went past.
I think is the bug in that situation. That is the perception system not working as intended. This is where I have explained. The thing is, it's the NPC system that is also in place. So apart from your enemy AI, you have your NPCs that have their own system as well, their own cycle to be performed. And in that for them, according to what's written by the developers to them, if there is a conflict, that is a fight, you are supposed to run away from the scene of crime. And that's what happens. And now imagine in a situation where you have this mobile bush, but the guard comes towards you and they are going towards the crowd. And it's for them, it is similar to moving through a normal street, a busy street in Valhalla. And while they're doing their patrolling, they hit you. And this is equivalent to you being spotted in a bush. And obviously that raises the conflict level, becomes high. The group that was there will obviously disperse because according to their overlords, that is the programmers, they're supposed to run away, and they just did just that. They just follow their instructions, what they're supposed to do. I think again, this is something they really, really need to polish it out, but also at the same time try to maintain that immersiveness, because that's a very good mechanic. Like if you get spotted, the NPCs run away. That's a good mechanic, but they need to find a way that social stealth is not affected so easily, and move forward from it.
Yeah, because I'm kind of getting pretty bored of having to be Batman sneaking on the rooftops just to get to A and B. Because I love blending in with the monks, but as soon as I'm like knocked into a guard, it's suddenly like all hell breaks loose and the entire city's on my backside, and I have to either feign death and spend 20 minutes watching my character dead in the middle of the ground so they all bugger off, or I have to use the assassin's cantrip ability on parry to drop a smoke bomb and leg it. It's annoying. I just want to go through an area calmly, get to my objective, and if you want stabbed, I'll do it in a scary manner so you don't realise I'm behind you.
I think there was only once I actually did the social stealth, but the thing is, prior to doing the social stealth, I killed the guards nearby.
That's cheating.
But it was pointless. It was pointless, but still it worked. I got my objective. I passed through to the point where I'm supposed to go. So yes. Another, like, there are also, they need to understand is that how social stealth works is that it's supposed to take us from point A to point B without being interrupted. And if that cycle interrupts, obviously that's not going to be a good experience. They just need to find a way to tweak it out. There's no other way because this is something that I cannot control or you cannot control. Or unless we find an exploit that makes them undetectable forever, then yeah, that's pretty much it.
Um, Before we jump on to the last big mechanic to talk about, well, last two, have you tried? It's funny as heck if you can pull it off, but certain locations have a drunkard, and you pay the drunkard to distract the guards. It's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yep, I have. I use that more to like if I'm in social stealth, that is the most reliable mechanic that I've ever did. Is to use a drunkard to a point where like because if you walk slowly, guards don't detect you as often. So you walk slowly, you pull them towards the right side or the left side, wherever there's a good area. Start the drunkard there and then run back towards the social group and just walk along with them. The guards will automatically be there for about a minute or so, and I'm already in the city in my job and doing my job. So yeah.
Well, one of the things I did, and I didn't save it with photo mode because I didn't see the point, but I had a drunkard who was distracting the guard. I snuck behind the guard as he was getting, tortured by the drunkard, and then stabbed him. But he noticed me too late, and his face was hilarious. He looked so confused. He was like, "What has happened? I'm dealing with drunk," and I was like, "Yeah, mate, stab. I'm off." I did that all the time in
Yeah.
London. I was like, "Come on, have the
Yeah.
drunkard. You don't see me coming up behind you, the killer Batman."
Yeah. But that's the funniest thing, right? Like they like when you call the drunkard on to the guards, they don't detect you at all, even if you walk in front of them. But if you use a social stealth group, yeah, they can detect you a mile away. It's a fun mechanic.
Get get tons of drunkards. That's what we need. We don't need courtesans. We just need a bunch of drunkards. Set them on the guards, and we're perfectly fine in any area. So, next combat is the biggest one and the most talked about, and
Mm-hmm.
it's the trickiest one to actually find a common ground. It's parkour.
Ha ha ha! Yes.
Parkour has been one of the most important parts of Assassin's Creed since 1, but the
Mm-hmm.
problem with parkour is it's always evolved to fit the game. And the
Exactly.
result of this has led to 3 games that have had a basic parkour system because it's not needed. Valhalla does have a lot, if you know where to look, environmental parkour
Mm-hmm.
systems that are really fluid and fun, but there's not enough. And this causes the problem a lot more people are wanting old school parkour or Unity style parkour, but in my opinion, a game like Valhalla really would class Unity style parkour as kind of a waste because a lot of the houses can be jumped off and taken no fall damage. Why do I need to parkour down when I could just jump off and run?
I think what they meant is more control because even in Valhalla, you still don't have a full control over your parkour mechanics. For example, say you want to maintain that level of parkour in Unity, there is this one button. It's called high profile mode, and but if you want to go up, you go high profile up, and that is by holding the high profile button and A button. This is similar mechanic that was there in the first game. So this is a very good translation of how parkour should work in a fan's eye. But with Origins, Valhalla, and Odyssey, you see that it's been dumbed down to one button press. So basically, it is either parkour up or parkour down. And it's the button discipline that works with it. So, button discipline is where you press buttons that is needed and you don't press the buttons that is not needed at all. So, it is similar to you sprinting, it is similar to you going up and not constantly pressing up. So, stuff like that. So you need to know when to press and what to press. But that sort of creative freedom to control where you want to go has somewhat been not there in these 3 RPG games. I'm calling them the RPG games because they are very much heavy into it. But even though Unity, Syndicate, and the other previous games did have some RPG elements in it.
I think the biggest reason for this is one of my most not liked features of the old school Assassin's Creed, and I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, is I wasn't really a fan of what's been dubbed as the puppeteer system. You know, how you had the buttons on the top screen, you had the high and low profile by button pressing.
Uh huh.
I wasn't a big fan of it. I liked the idea and like the usage. I just didn't like there being 101 prompts to everything I can do. I just want to be left on my own. and turning it off in the HUD at times was a bit complicated. And then Origins and onwards done away with the puppeteer system. They give you more control of your character by giving you no button prompts, you do anything. But removing the puppeteer system removes the high and low profiles that made the parkour smoother and more control. So how can they implement a smoother parkour system without re-adding the puppeteer system?
For one thing, they can give the sprint button back. I mean, like for example, the sprint button in Valhalla is, well, it is more of a one single press rather than a hold. That would give that feeling of control back, because it would give the sense of that, hey, I'm sprinting, then I'm running up, instead of like, even though it is sort of like a placebo effect, I would say, that's one option. Like have sort of like a placebo button system where you hold sprint and then you can do parkour up. Because it also makes sense in a way in terms of when you're doing parkour. Like for example, you're doing a jog and then you're climbing up a building, doesn't make sense. You sprint and then you run up, that makes much more sense. Then you have, as the same thing, when you're going down, you have the controlled descent options. But what if you want to maintain the same level? You don't want to press B for that. You just want to maintain the same level of parkour. So you just hold A, or do you have a different mechanic for it? So same thing. So that is why high profile system works here. This is why people prefer the Unity parkour system. You have the high profile maintain. So you press high profile alone, it maintains that same route, the same path you're going for. If you hold high profile up, it actually pushes you up to the direction that you want to go. If you're going high profile down, it takes you to a controlled descent. So that is something, it's sort of like how a challenge works. So basically, if you want to test your skills constantly and move around the city efficiently, it is mostly up to your skills. It is very difficult to do in a big place like Origins and I'm sorry, why am I saying Origins? It's Origin and Odyssey. In such big places, it's very hard to give that sort of challenge in terms of parkour, because again, they're not closely grouped places. They are more of open spaces. But the thing is, with Valhalla, they have this whole denser city style that can actually implement a stronger parkour system. So in a sense, they can have this sort of additional controls to either go up or go down. It would help them in the long run.
Prior to this episode, I have been doing a lot of testing, and I have noticed on PS4, and it'd be the same on all platforms, but you do have to press X on PS4 to climb up a building anyways, because still after 12 games, Assassin's Creed doesn't have a jump button. You can't jump randomly unless you're on a roof. And
I think you can do that in, like, prior to the RPGs, prior to the RPGs, you can jump.
See, I will admit, last game I played before Odyssey was Unity, and I kind of spent more time on the rooftops than I really didn't try and jump on the ground. So if I've made an error
that if you press the high profile button and just tap the X button, you can actually do a consecutive jump. It's very useful when you're doing parkour, because sometimes parkour takes some time to activate. You can avoid that just by tapping it out.
All right, so I take back my comment. I will admit, people, I've not had the money to get the Ezio collection yet, so I haven't really touched the Ezio games since 2011.
That's fair.
Last time I touched Black Flag was 2013. Since then, I've been playing Unity, Syndicate, and then tons of the new ones because they're bigger. But
what I can tell you though is that in Black Flag you cannot jump as freely. It is very more restrictive than Unity, Syndicate. But any game is very restrictive. The parkour is very restrictive.
I probably need to investigate because in Unity and Syndicate I did spend a lot more time on the rooftops and traversal with mainly Syndicate was with the grappling hooks. I didn't spend enough time on the ground to test, so I will test these myself.
Yeah.
But the point I was trying to get in Valhalla is I've noticed L3 sprint is a bit awkward at times. I'm not going to lie, I find that awkward. But there is X is used for running up, and if you hold circle on cliffs, because I've noticed more on cliffs because it's bigger. She does do a bit more of a controlled drop system. It's not as
Yeah.
fluid or as fun as Unity. So if that idea is there, is it then
Mm-hmm.
possible just to tweak it a little bit more to give it a bit more fluid? Because the environmental parkour in Valhalla is perfect for Valhalla. It is really good for
Yeah,
Valhalla.
because it's
It
very dense. It's very dense. So the way
it
how the level works is super dense, so that parkour can work much better. And it's sort of like a missed opportunity at this point. If they can introduce more mechanics, I'll be happy for it.
I agree. And looking at the time, I think we have one last mechanic. If you're happy to jump onto it,
Yep, I'm all game.
and I am prepared for the pitchforks because this statement gets me into a lot of trouble.
Ooh.
We're gonna talk about combat, and
Ah.
I will now openly admit I do not like Assassin's Creed combat pre Unity. My reason, I found every game before Unity was just a simple counter system. I never actually used attack much unless it was heavy enemies. I think I just spent more time standing in a circle of 20 enemies, mashing circle to instant kill, which to me feels very arcadey and
Mm-hmm.
very repetitive. Unity's approach, where it was more parry and actually mini hitbox, and then Valhalla's has improved on Odyssey and Origins hitbox style. And I
Right.
think the abilities in it do feel more grounded, but I do think the combat in this one feels a bit more weighty than the other two. I don't really think, as I've been told to use the right analogy, I don't think it's as spongy as Odyssey. I do think there's a bit more weight
Yeah.
to the combat, and
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the combat I'm actually loving more for Assassin's Creed.
Okay, you know what? I might join you with alongside you and face the pitchforks myself because yes, combat has been too easy prior to Unity, and guess what? Unity's combat is very much similar to AC1. Right. So you have the parry system, right, in Unity. That system has been there in Assassin's Creed 1. The combat is very, very tough, and it's very similar to what you have right now in Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. But instead of like you have one button counter system that you have in Ezio, which part was not there in Assassin's Creed 2 initially. It was there in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Um, in Assassin's Creed 1, you have what you call counter dodges, and you have counters, but it is not, you need to initiate the move and time it correctly. You mistime it, you actually get hit, like really bad. So yeah, that sort of system is good that it's there, and I'm glad that it's back in a sense, and it's improved to a point where it's enjoyable.
I'm kind of like I haven't touched Assassin's Creed since 2007, so I am very rusty. I will admit this is 12 years. I'm 25 now. I've had a lot happen, but I do remember vividly in Combat in AC1. I played on 360. I was able to press B to counter, but then X to insta kill, and
Not
I
all
did.
the time. Not all the time.
That's
Only if you
most of my
have,
memory come from.
because if you start off with the first, like if in the first sequence you can do that, but in the second sequence onwards you are stripped of your abilities, and in that one of them was counter. So the only way you could actually fight off a guard at that time was to either grab him, pull him to the ground, and then stab him constantly, or you just dodge. You couldn't counter. Counter was was one of the later abilities that you learn in game after you reach a particular sequence.
So this is why we need an Assassin's Creed 1 remaster. I am 25. I played Assassin's Creed back in 2007 and I'm expected to memorize every system from Assassin's Creed 1. So I may be inaccurate, but my point is a lot of the combat before Unity was quite simple. I do remember the Assassin's Creed 1 combat. I did find a bit simple. I did enjoy it,
Mm-hmm.
but I have found all the combat until Unity was easy. I think I died, not to sound like an idiot, but more times in Unity than I have done in any other combat scene in Assassin's Creed.
Oh, that's
Because
mainly because of the bugs.
actually, there wasn't. I think most of the time it's because I would run to a guard and start stabbing him and realize I'm not dodging his attacks when I should
Yeah.
be, and I wasn't actually having really strong weapons. I was like poking him with a stick, and he's a
Mm.
bear with iron armor and needs a bigger sword. Poking a bear with a stick is not a good idea. I wouldn't
Right.
recommend it.
That's fair. In Assassin's Creed 1, I think you cannot counterattack every single enemy. There is one type of enemy you cannot counterattack, and that is the Templar God. The Templar Gods in Assassin's Creed 1 cannot be counterattacked. This is the same system that was there for the Janissaries in Revelations, which is
Oh, I remember
amazing.
them, but
Yeah.
I spent, I bet my Google history looked bad back then, but I think in Revelations when I saw those big tough guys that you weren't allowed to counter, I used to
Yeah.
Google how to craft bombs all the time, just looking at tons of smoke bombs and then run away and then assassinate them because I didn't want to fight them. I just wanted to assassinate them. It was easier. Why fight them when I could assassinate them?
True.
Uh,
They are the
uh,
captains, so yeah, you should take them down if you want to
exactly.
survive. If you want to
Assassinate
survive,
them.
yeah. If you want to survive, that's the best way. But yeah, so that is the way how, like, you see how that evolution happens. It's pretty great, like how the combat evolves, and it's going back to a system where it is, well, now people wants to have more control over what it was. So basically, you could say that AC1 combat system is somewhat back, and I'm glad that it evolved to a point where it is pretty good now.
I think the best thing I love about the combat in Valhalla is I'm going to ignore the abilities for a second because I want to
Mm-hmm.
talk about them separate. But I found that when I'm fighting a guard, I'm not just mashing. There's that brief pause where, as you've killed a guy, there's like an animation where you just probably quickly chop his head or you do a finisher, and that creates, in my eyes, breathing room from combat because you are just hitting, but there's this brief moment where you like chop a guard's head off or you do a finisher, and it creates that breathing room for cinematic style fighting, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. And
Right,
then
right.
you get the abilities on top, which do feel grounded and a bit more fun, especially where you can catch projectiles out of thin air, then shoot them back. That's a
Right.
lot of fun.
Yeah, that was fun. I love that ability. It is. I forgot the ability name, of course. But let me see. It was somewhere in. No, it was the assassin ability, if I'm not wrong. Was
I
it?
think so. I think it's actually the wolf assassinating for range. I think it's the one before the one where you can pick up objects off the
Not
ground and
not
throw
the
it.
background bolt. Background bolt is the one that you take the one on the ground and you throw.
Yeah, that one needs fixed. Its field of view camera on that one is awful, especially in tight areas. It's the
Yeah.
camera's glitched into a wall. It needs to pull out instead of doing that cinematic watch me throw. Pull the camera out, increase the field of vision. You'll be golden.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not able to find it, which is insane. I'm looking through it as well. Was not the counter roll. Uh,
See, this
oh,
is
missile reversal. That's
that's
it.
the one. Missile, great ability, people. If you can time it, it's the most fun. You can do it with the stone throwing people. You can throw the rocks back. Arrow people, zealots with their javelins. That's the most easy way to
Oh,
get rid of
also
them.
there's another tip with that. You can also counter their bombs. Who,
Can
if they
you?
have bombs, you can throw it right back at them. It's super
I
fun.
I did
You
not
catch
know
the
this.
Yes, whatever bombs they have or any projectile that they have, they throw it at you. Throw it back. Only if it is a single one, like the single detection range. When you get detected or for an arrow that is about to shoot you, usually it'll be one sliver. But if there are like three slivers, similar to what an arbalist would have when they have their arrow strike, that cannot be countered. You can counter single ones. So those are usually potion drops or rock someone throwing a rock sometimes, or a javelin spear throw. Those can be easily countered.
And I can't remember the shield name, and I don't know if this is a misrepresentation in text or a bug, but this is something I'd highly recommend people. But in one of the early areas of the game, there's a wealth where you can get a shield that on parry causes fire.
Oh yeah. I remember
I
that.
I've noticed that if you get shot with an arrow and you catch the arrow in air, it actually triggers the shield's ability. So if you have people around you and you catch an arrow, it'll actually cause a ring of fire, burning everyone around you, and you still shoot the arrow back.
Yep, that's
It's
perfect. It's
but
perfect.
also with combat, I think one of the greatest additions, and I think it's a great addition because it's fun, not because it's a necessity, is the finishes. Like
Right, but I found
Deathlock.
them to be a deal breaker at times. I'll explain in good time. So the thing is with finishers, they're pretty great. They're like they have this very classy things. But say for example you're doing an assault, siege assault, for example, you are going to fight against 20 enemies, but at times there'll be this point where some of the enemies cannot detect you. They'll be fighting other NPCs, and during that time you'll be doing this finisher that lasts for like 5 seconds, and that breaks my combat flow, to be honest.
I am gonna 100% back you that I have found that to be annoyance, but my counter to it, not to your comment, but to that problem, has always been the bow finisher is actually
Right.
2 seconds shorter than stabbing them with a
Yeah,
weapon, and it actually puts a distance as well, so it
that's the
pushes
thing.
you well.
I'm not able to get that distance. Like
Maybe it's just
usually,
me.
yeah, because of that siege, of the siege thing, usually you try to like get close, because I usually have a dagger system, so I don't try to have a much of a long range. And when I had the dagger system initially, I had to get close and personal, and during that time using both finishers was unoptimal. My only option was to use a stun finisher, and that was like about 2 seconds too. But then there's this finisher moment when you attack and you are about to kill, and for example there's this the large dude that throws bodies at you. You choke him, and that takes about 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's a bit long.
Yeah, that takes way too long. And I'm like, yes, there's an enemy right behind me. I can see him through the finisher. Like, there's an enemy behind me. Let me get done with it. But no, Eivor has to scream to his face. So
Um,
right. So
so
that's the thing.
so it's an annoying thing. You touched on sieges, and I just wanted to quickly ask you a personal question about sieges.
Yeah,
Have you run into any bugs where you cannot
several.
complete a siege stealthily?
Oh, several times. Because again, this is with the detection system that is clearly flawed, and also at times where sometimes the objectives don't work. Even if I throw like infinite amount of oil jars at them, the doors just don't break. Apparently, I have to go to the other side and then break from there, but somehow carry the oil jars all the way from my place to the other side. It just doesn't seem right. So yeah, there's something like that's actually going wrong. Like it was bug when I finished the game, it was a buggy mess, but I'm pretty sure by now on my second run it is going pretty smoothly. And yeah, I hope
It's
it's getting. I hope it'll be better. I hope so.
the reason I bring it up is, and this is a minor spoiler, so I think it's all right. The siege of the Brenton Castle. You know which one I'm on
Yeah.
about.
Hmm.
Um, I completed a lot of that stealth, but I jumped over a wall and I stabbed the gate, broke apart, and then opened the gate. And then
Hmm.
I tried to push forward to kill the last person to complete the mission, but the game kept saying I had to open the middle gate. But I had
Ah.
already jumped the wall stealthily, opened the middle gate, shot about 40 guards by myself that just kept infinitely spawning. They would not die, and it was just me on my own with an open gate, and it's like, please open the middle gate. I have. I'm dying here. I literally had to
I
go back
think
5 saves to fix it.
I think yeah, that's a bug. That's a bug.
Yeah, it was annoying.
Unfortunately, that's a bug.
It was
Uh,
annoying me.
yeah, I feel that they sort of inspired this from the Shadow of Mordor, and again halfway implemented it. This is something that is very common with Ubisoft games, I suppose. They see a mechanic like, "Ooh, that looks great. Let's make a half polished version of it." And that's what I see right now with Sieges. It just feels like that. It feels like Shadow of Mordor, but not fully implemented in a sense. So yeah, I hope they fix it. And I'm not like this is like a one time event too, like the Sieges. I hope I could do it multiple times, sort of like we can do with Odyssey, like sort of like an Animus hack or sense. Like we can do some events constantly without like getting the the consequences of using the animus and changing the history, that sort of situation. So
Because I always find Siege is a lot of fun, especially if um, you need two particular weapons for this one. So I will point out if you put the get the miasma perk on abilities, get a
mm-hmm.
bow that leads traps when you get a headshot,
Uh-huh.
and put the poison ability on. If you're in a siege with 20 people and you headshot one of them and die, the miasma ability will leave a poison cloud, so they all get
Yes.
poisoned. But
Yes.
that one enemy has a trap on him, so everyone near him just all blows up, and then all of them die,
Yeah, that
creating
happens.
more poison clouds. I love that. It's my little work. It's how I clear out
Yeah.
entire camps. I just drop a huge poison cloud and just watch from afar as they all get poisoned slowly.
If you get the upgrade for it, they actually deploy twice, which is
Do they?
insane. Yeah.
How do you get the upgrade ability?
I think for Incendiary Power Trap, it is locked behind one of the wealth. And for the Poison Power Trap, it is behind one of the quests from Haytham.
Ah, I'm
Hytham,
still
sorry.
I still cannot find. Apparently, Google doesn't know, but you can find man's best friend ability in London, where you can summon a wolf. But I haven't found the upgrade anywhere in the world. Apparently, you get it from completing Asgard, which I've done, but I didn't get it.
No, actually, you get it from first. You need to unlock the quest in your settlement first. That you need to find your wolf. For me, the dog's name is the wolf's name is Chewy. It is also known
Oh,
as the wolf. The wolf. I don't know how to say that because they just combine dog and wolf, and then some other name. I'm not sure what it was. So you need to look for the quest that actually starts up in your settlement. It should be on the right side where the kids will be like, "Hey, Eivor, follow us," and you just go follow, save the wolf, and everything will be fine.
and then I get part two for the ability because it's actually kind of fun to go into a camp, and this is probably diverted for the entire episode, but
Mm-hmm.
it is a lot of fun to be hiding in a bush, send a wolf to attack someone, and then while the whole guys don't know what's happening, you assassinate his friend. So if
Yeah.
there's two people together, perfect. Um, right, so it's nearly 55 minutes, so last thing I want to ask you before we wrap up, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We know that Eivor carries an axe
Mm-hmm.
and a hidden blade.
Yes.
Would it be possible for Ubisoft, and this is a question for you, Ubisoft, if you actually are listening, dual assassination? Now, how it would work is you stab somebody with the hidden blade, and then you
Yeah.
stab somebody with the axe. Similar.
Exactly. It felt so underused in this game. Like, for example, the only time you see it being used is during a finisher, or you use it during um, giving respects to a dead body. Pretty much. That's only time you only see the axe ever being used. I don't see it used any other time. I felt it was really underused. And for some reason, there is a rope also attached to Eivor on her back, which I found it like they could have used that for like sort of like a rope mechanic that was there in Ghost of Tsushima, and it's a wasted opportunity. Ah,
Let's hope.
God, so many possibilities, so many.
I just think the biggest possibility is we know that Arno in Assassin's Creed Unity uses his hidden blade, and I think it's a dagger he uses for dual assassinations. I just think it'd be nice if they did something with Valhalla because there is a lot of guards standing next to each other and it's kind of annoying. You
Yeah.
can't always do chain assassinations, but
yeah, I also understand the reason why they're not doing dual assassinations, because this was something that was written in Altair's codexes. So this is again taking back way towards Assassin's Creed 2. So,
but
but
could
it
it
could
be?
be.
But
It could be.
technically, the breaking timeline by suggesting America was discovered a few centuries early, and seeing as Haytham taught Eivor the leap of faith, they could say, look, we've got this new technique we're trying out, and Haytham fails to do the dual wield assassination on test dummy. Eivor gets a bit snarky, like, I want to try this, and you perfect it and you use it.
It could work,
It,
but
it won't.
yeah, considering how Ubisoft track record is to leave open plot holes, it won't be there. Like, because we're supposed to get like a very good background to why Eagle Vision exists. We didn't get that properly. We just got that through a comic. Um, sorry about that. Then you have what was it? There was this one ability which was supposed to be explained. Yeah, the hidden blade. Apart from Darius doing that, Darius just instantly found the blade, but we never saw the final version of the blade. To be fair, we only upgraded the blade, but that's pretty much it. We didn't see the final version being made and being like the ultimate blade ever being used. In Origins, you upgrade to the blade to the final stage, but I don't think that had a subplot to itself. So, yeah, it was an iconic part of the series. Like I expected that, but that was not there. It felt bad.
I think the other plot that's been left, and I really just quickly want to drop this in because I've been dying to share it in part of the systems, but I totally forgotten. Eagle vision, technically, but seeing through the eagle's eyes, as done by Bayek and Cassandra and now Eivor, is actually canon because Connor's daughter did it as well.
Did it, yeah.
So,
but you know what's the most funniest thing? They sort of made this canon prior to Origins release.
Did they?
Yeah, just prior to Origins release, this comic was released, where Otterberg was going through some of the memories and he was trying to make some comments on it, try to understand the size of the assassins apparently, and he found this ability on Connor's daughter, and that is when we knew that that ability is canon. And that's what happened on Origins. That's all. That's all we know. Well, nothing else the game can tell. But you know what's the most funniest thing? The eagle thing that was there for Assassin's Creed so far, that's very iconic. The eagle sounds. That was an Animus feature in Assassin's Creed 1 for the tower.
Just in order to it.
Yeah, so for to make sure that Desmond could identify synchronization points, they added an eagle on the tower so that he could find them.
So then
technically they don't exist. They were not there.
So is it safe to say then, and if you admit this live on here, I'd feel chuffed, that my theory for several years that memories can be adapted, not changed, adapted with Animus technology. So eagles can appear when they don't exist, flaming mounts can exist, and
yes,
flaming birds can exist.
Yes.
Because of Animus hacks.
Yep. That's been the whole point. That's been the whole point of the whole game. Like, because, for example, the very first hack that you get to do in Assassin's Creed 2 is to ride a unicorn.
Yeah, see, I've had an argument as kind of off topic, but quickly, I had an argument last year that apparently Odyssey's flaming horse breaks immersion because it's a flaming horse, and I tried to use Animus hacks, and apparently it didn't go down well. Apparently, the Animus is a realistic device that lives memories. Flaming horses did not exist.
Oh boy!
But
also, Arno glitching every now and then is very realistic. Yeah, that's very fair. I mean, also Bayek able to see and battle gods. It's very realistic as well.
Plus, he rides a unicamel. Kid you not, it's a unicamel. He rides a unicamel.
Oh, and also Final Fantasy being canon in their universe. I mean, yeah, it makes sense in a suppose, but no, that's a very bad take, I would say. But yeah, but what Odyssey did in terms of how they sort of like they took a lot of convenient narrative plot device for one game that I did not like. They could have done much better on it, but unfortunately what is done is done. We have to consider that as canon and move forward.
Right, so I've just realised it is an hour-long episode, which is fine. It's all love me talking.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining, Nick. It was great to have you on board.
Thank you. It's been fun chatting with you.
Before I leave, it's going to be my regular point now whenever I have a guest on to remind you all that you could be on this show. You don't have to be a content creator. You don't have to be a long-time fan. If you've just picked up Valhalla and you love the series and you want to talk about it, come join my show. I'm happy. All you need to do is reach out to me on Twitter, @ACLet'sTalk, or email me at assassinscreedletstalk@gmail.com. Fire me up. We will work out dates and times in my posh new diary because apparently Google hates my planning system, so it deleted it. Yay, Google. Technology. Rise of Skynet and all that. It's not going to happen when I have a paper diary.
Hey, we're playing with an animus here. So.
Yeah, knowing my luck, I could plan my podcast on an animus and it would delete it. So either way, if you want to be on the show, you're more than welcome. Just please hit me up. Give me a topic idea that you'd like to discuss, and I will happily have you on board. Thank you again for Nick for joining, and I'll see you all next week.
Thank you so much. You are awesome. You've been an amazing host, so yay! Props to you.
I feel flattered. I'm going to get myself a nice complimentary custard cream.
Oh, that's perfect. Go for it.
And a cup of tea. If I have any milk left.
Probably you'll find some. Don't worry.
Thank you all, people.
All right. Good night.